Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'll be sharing with you how I recreated the two-piece of this rich Anty vibes kimono jacket. The tutorial to the jacket is already on the channel. I'll put the link in the description. I used 3 yards of a lightweight damask fabric. You can also use a Mikado fabric for these two-piece. So this tutorial is mainly on how to make the top. I already have a pattern drafting tutorial for the trouser on the channel. The link and any other link that concerns the making of the trouser will be in the description. So do not forget to like and share. Please watch the tutorial before you download it. The contact of the vendor of these fabrics will be in the description, and without further ado, let's get right into the tutorial. I have here a very lightweight cotton lining. A medium weight is better. I have a detachable zipper and 1 yard of a lightweight damask fabric. I'll be using my contoured basic bodice for this tutorial for a better fit around the neckline. So on these bodies, I have removed any excess on the center front that will cause gaping on the V neckline. If you're drafting directly on your fabric, you're likely to have gaping on your V neckline, as these manipulations cannot be done when you draft directly on your fabric. I have traced out my pattern on the fabric, and I'll go ahead and modify some of the measurements to that of my client. So here I'm squaring out the bust point of these bodies, which is at 11 inches. The half length of these bodies is 17 inches plus ½ inch for stomach ease. If you do not know what this is, you should watch any of my basic bodies tutorial. Then the half length of my client is 18 inches plus ½ inch for stomach ease, which gives me 18.5 inches. So I will square it out. I'll measure the dart on the original waistline and place it on the new waistline. On the armhole level, I will place 1/4 of my client's bust measurement plus ½ inch for ease. For me is 10 inches. And on the waistline, I'll place 1/4 of her waist measurement. So from the center front to the first dart leg, I will take that measurement to the second dart leg and place 1/4 of her waist measurement. For me is 8.75 inches, and I'll draw in the side seam. With my tape on the armhole level, I will come down at ½ inch to open up the sleeve a little, and from that point I will go down 2.75 inches for the bust dart level and replace my 1 inch bust dart. With my tape on the bust point level on the dart line, I will go down by 1 inch and draw in my dart legs. Cancel out the old waistline and draw in my new armhole curve. On the shoulder line, from the neckline, I will go in by 1.75 inches. The depth of my V neckline is to the bust point level, and I'll connect these 2 points with a straight line. So you connect these points to the depth of your own V neckline. Before I go ahead and add my seam allowance and cut out my front pattern, we are going to stop here for now for the front pattern, and we'll come back to it when we are done drafting the back pattern. I have traced out my back pattern and will modify the measurements just like we did on the front pattern to the measurements of my client. On the armhole level, I will place 1/4 of the bust measurement minus the ½ inch we borrowed on the front bodice for ease. For me is 9 inches, which is what I have here already. On the waistline, I will place 1/4 of the waist measurement of 8.75 inches, exactly the way we placed it on the front panel, and I'll draw in the side seam. On the shoulder line from the neckline, I will go in by 1.75 inches, and on the center back neckline, I will go down by 0.25 inch, making it a total neck depth of 1.25 inches, and I will draw in the new back neckline. So here I'm redrawing my 1 inch dart. Remember, this 1 inch is not included in the waist circumference. So if you're drafting directly on your fabric, please add your 1 inch dart. From the armhole level, I will come down by ½ inch and draw in my new armhole curve. Now measure the side seam on the back panel and compare it to that on the front. The back panel measured 7.5 inches, while on the front panel minus the 1 inch that measured 8.5 inches. So we have a difference of 1 inch. To balance off the side seams, I will take in that extra 1 inch on the bust dart. Draw in my bust dart legs. I'll pin close the dart and redraw the side seam. You can see now that the front side seam measured 7.5 inches. I'll go ahead and add my seam allowances, 1 inch on the side seam, 1.5 inches at the hem of the top, ½ inch on the armhole, shoulder line and neckline, and cut out my pattern. While cutting out your fabric, make sure the darts are closed to prevent any shortage of fabric. Also fold in the seam allowance at the hem of the top before cutting out the side seam. So guys, I have cut out my fabric with their respective lining and have marked out all important details. My lining is 1 inch shorter than the main fabric. I have gone ahead and interfaced the neckline of the front and back panel, and you can see here that I did not interface up to the ½ inch seam allowance. This affected the shape of the neckline and made it longer because of the way this fabric is woven. So I went back and redid the interfacing, and this time up to the ½ inch seam allowance, and I did this by just dabbing the iron on the interface to glue it on the fabric for the front and back neckline. I also added interfacing on the neckline of the lining to give it a little stability because of how lightweight the lining is. If your lining is cotton, cause mine is really lightweight and you can see through it, you may not need to add interfacing on yours. So I'll go ahead and attach the front and back panels on the shoulders, and I'll do the same with the lining. I have attached the front and back panels on the shoulder, and I did the same with the lining. Now I'll go ahead and attach the lining to the main fabric on the neckline. So I'm showing you the sewing part using the first interfacing I did that was not up to the seam allowance because I'd already filmed it. I did not film the sewing part when I redid the interfacing. Once that is done, I will notch round the neckline to release any tension, and I will top stitch the seam allowance to the lining. I have done all that I said and have given the neckline a good press. The next thing I'm going to do is to attach the lining to the fabric around the armhole or sleeve. To get a good finishing around the armhole or sleeve and prevent the lining from peeping out around the edges of the sleeve, your lining should be 0.25 inch shorter than your fabric. So with the right side of your lining to the right side of your fabric, you will pin it in place, making sure your fabric is 0.25 inch away from your lining. That is, if the width of your lining is the same as your fabric, just like in my case, make sure your fabric is pushed in 0.25 inch away from your lining. But if your lining is 0.25 inch shorter around the armhole, just go ahead and pin it as usual. You're going to pin from one end of the armhole to the other end, just like you see me doing in the video, and attach with your ½ inch seam allowance. So I'll continue pinning to the other end of the sleeve, making sure the shoulder line of the bodice matches to the lining. You can see here that my bodice is pushed 0.25 inch away from the lining because the lining was cut the same as the bodice. I'll go ahead and attach with a straight stitch. Once that is done, I will trim down the excess, notch round the curved corners, and top stitch the seam allowance to the lining to make it lay nice and flat. I've stitched round the armhole and I have top stitched the seam allowance to the lining. I'll go ahead and turn it out to the right side. You can see here that the lining is centered in the middle of the sleeve with the main fabric around the edge of the sleeve. If you do not make your lining shorter than your main fabric, you'll end up with a tacky finish. I'll take this to my ironing table and give it a good press before we join the sides. I've given this top a good press and this is what it's looking like. Now I'll open it up like so and match the front panel to the back panel of the top and the front panel of the lining to the back panel as well and attach with a straight stitch. I have sewn close the side seam of the top and this is what I have. I went ahead and installed the zipper but only on the main fabric. Now I'm going to sew close the hem of the top. So with the right side of the lining to the right side of the fabric, I will pin it in place like you see me doing in the video all the way to the other end of the top and attach with a straight stitch and also attach the lining to the zipper. I have stitched close the hem of the top and I have this neat finish with all the seam allowance hidden. I have also attached the lining on the zip on this side and turned everything out on this other side of the zipper. To attach the lining to this side of the zipper, with the right side of the lining to the right side of the zipper, I will pin it in place and stitch it down halfway. And from the hem of the zip, I will pin it in place as well and stitch it down halfway, leaving about 3 inches space in the middle to turn it out. So guys, I've done all that I said and you can see how neat the top is with all the seam allowance hidden inside. For this opening in the middle, I prefer to hand tack it using a binding hem, or you can also stitch it close with your machine if you prefer. On both sides of the side seam, I will run back tacks to secure the lining to the armhole and at the hem as well. I have pinned my pattern in place and have modified it to the measurement of my client. These measurements will be on the screen. My client wears a size L in her trouser. So here I'm cutting out the front panel of the trouser. I'll make necessary notches and I'll go ahead and cut out for the back panel as well. I did not video the sewing part of this trouser because I already have a number of pant tutorials on the channel, but there's an important tutorial I made on how to get a smooth waistband running from the back to the front, especially when making a trouser for a client with very wide hips and small waistline, and on how to cut out the waistband correctly. The link to that tutorial will be in the description. Do not forget to like and share this video if you enjoyed it. Leave all your questions in the comment section. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and I'll see you guys in my next one. A bientôt!